Imagine being a legendary warrior, someone who lived through wars, monsters, and demons. Every battle he entered looked impossible to survive. But no matter how much he suffered, he kept fighting. He lost people, he lost battles, and he saw things no normal person could ever handle. But then one day, his ending came. He died before he could learn the full truth. But years later, he opens his eyes again, not in his old body, and not in the life he used to know. He comes back as a small child, inside one of the strongest families in the world. Everyone sees him as nothing more than a talented boy, but no one knows that inside this child are the memories of a warrior who already lived, fought, and died once before. And from his very first test, he starts proving that he is not normal. Monsters cannot scare him, enemies cannot stop him, and even the rules of his own family cannot hold him back. But the real question is, why did he come back? Who is hiding the truth? And what secret was buried 300 years ago? Get ready, because this story has brutal fights, ancient mysteries, terrifying power, and a hero who came back from death to finish something that should have ended a long time ago. So without wasting any more time, do not forget to like the video and tell me in the comments, do you think Eugene will uncover the truth, or will his past break him all over again? Let's begin the story. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are back with a new part of Eugene's story. And if you have not watched the previous parts yet, go back and watch them first so you can understand everything that is happening. Before we begin, make sure to drop a like, and let's try to get this video to 10,000 likes. Now let's begin.
Our story begins with a warrior and 4 of his companions inside a dungeon. We learn that they have already killed 3 out of the 5 great demonic generals, and that they are now heading to subdue the Demon King and finish him off. We see the 5 warriors facing a huge group of monsters. Some of them resemble dragons, while others look more like goblins. Then the warrior named Vermouth charges at them, and we learn that his title is Great Vermouth. A mage runs after him and tells him to look at all those enemies. She confidently says that she will wipe them out with magic and then launches powerful spells at them. We learn that her title is the Wise Sienna. Then we see another woman in the team being attacked from behind by a monster, but she crushes its skull in an instant. We learn that her title is the Faithful Annis. Then we see the knight with the giant axe cutting down multiple monsters in a single blow. We learn that his title is the Brave Malan. After that, someone rushes forward at high speed while cursing Vermouth and telling him not to think he is going to outshine him. He tears through the monsters with incredible speed and precision, and we learn that his title is the Foolish Hamel. We learn that Hamel always felt jealous of Vermouth. Hamel says it looks like they have finished off all the monsters, but suddenly a fast attack flies toward Vermouth and Hamel takes the blow in his place. The wound is deep. We then discover that the attacker is a horned monster. The creature laughs mockingly and attacks again, but this time Vermouth blocks the strike, closes the distance in an instant, and lands a fatal blow. He cuts the monster clean in half and finishes it off complete. The rest of the team becomes worried about Hamel because of the wound he took, and sadness fills the air. Vermouth tells him that he did not have to die like this. Hamel replies that there is nothing honorable about dying like this. We learn that Hamel deeply regretted his past because he had never truly been honest with his comrades. Hamel calls out to Vermouth and tells him to avenge him and defeat them all. Then we see Vermouth holding his hand and swearing that he will wipe them all out. Hamel becomes satisfied as he lies there dying, drawing his final breaths. He tells them that they are the bravest and strongest warriors. His companions are moved by his words. He begins to say, "In truth, I." Then suddenly we cut to a young boy stepping on a magazine. We realize he had just been reading a story and he shouts, "I never said that." Then he curses the thing he was reading, calling it disgusting. He says that no matter how many times he reads it, it still makes him furious, and he cannot understand who could have written something so ridiculous. That boy is Hamel, or rather the one who inherited his memory. He says that if he ever found the person who wrote it, he would beat him up. He starts complaining that everyone else got titles like Great, Wise, Faithful, and Brave, while he alone got stuck with Foolish. He says that those stories were written 300 years ago. Then we discover that Hamel has returned to life 300 years after those events, still carrying all his memories. He keeps wondering why they left behind such a ridiculous book without ever protecting the honor of their fallen comrade. Hamel says that no one ever expected him to die anyway. Then we find Hamel wondering how he came back to life with all his past memories intact. He says that he died 300 years ago while fighting the Demon King. His thoughts are interrupted by a portrait in front of him, and the portrait is of Vermouth. We learn that the formal clothing he is wearing was sent because he is considered a descendant of the great warrior Vermouth. Then Hamel starts thinking about Vermouth and remarks that Vermouth had many admirers besides his wife. He notes that Vermouth had never really cared about women, but maybe old age changed that in him. Hamel says he can understand that because in the end, Vermouth was still human. We then learn that in this new life, Hamel was reborn under the name Eugene, though we will continue referring to him as Hamel. We also learn about a family ceremony that forbids the children of the collateral bloodlines from using real swords or developing mana. That is why Hamel has been training only with a wooden sword. We watch him slash a training training dummy with countless rapid blows before hurling the wooden sword and splitting the dummy in half. The dummy collapses to the ground. Then we realize someone had been watching and muttering to himself that Eugene had broken another dummy again. That person turns out to be his father. His father stares at him in amazement and says that Eugene does not look like a normal 13-year-old at all. He even jokes that if he fought Eugene barehanded, he feels like he would lose. He tells Eugene that although he is his son, sometimes his behavior genuinely frightens him because it does not match his age in the slightest. Then Eugene turns toward him with Hamel's old fierce expression. His father reflects on the fact that Eugene lost his mother at a very young age, and yet never seemed to grieve for her at all. Eugene then blames the broken dummy on the blacksmith, saying the dummy keeps falling apart because the blacksmith's work is garbage. He asks how such a poor product could even be sold, and says they should drag the blacksmith there and punish him. His father awkwardly says that Eugene is being merciful, then nervously adds that he will at least warn the blacksmith. We then learn that the ceremony will take place the following day, and that it is called the Bloodline Continuation Ceremony. It is a meaningless tradition held every 10 years within the Lionheart family, the family Eugene belongs to. During it, both the main family and the collateral branches gather together. Children between the ages of 10 and 15 assemble in the main residence, where they are evaluated to determine who possesses the qualities worthy of the Lionheart name. Eugene is deeply irritated by all this. He says that in the end, the family uses this ritual to suppress the collateral branches, just as they have done to his own family, by monitoring them from childhood and forbidding them from training with real weapons or mana. Then Eugene's father remarks that Eugene is so talented he can barely think of him as an ordinary son anymore. He says that if Eugene had been born into the direct bloodline, he would never have had to suffer with his talent being restrained. Eugene notices the look on his father's face and asks him what is wrong. His father brushes it off and says it is nothing. But Eugene immediately realizes his father is lying. He understands that his father hates himself for not being talented enough. Then his father places a hand on Eugene's shoulder and tells him not to challenge the children of the direct bloodline. He says that no matter how talented Eugene may be, they have already trained with real weapons and developed their mana, so it will be hard to face them. Eugene outwardly agrees and says of course he will not try anything reckless, but we already know he is lying. He says to himself that this is just a competition against children who have barely even reached 10 years old, and considering he returned with 300 years of experience, he is not worried in the slightest. Then he turns to another dummy. We learn that 3 children from the direct bloodline and 6 children from the collateral branches will take part in the ceremony. Eugene grabs his sword and slices the dummy in half with a single strike. He is furious because the children he is about to face are the grandchildren of Vermouth. He mutters, "All right then, descendants of Vermouth, let's see how strong you really are." The next day, his father sees him off. Eugene reflects on his past life as Hamel. Back then, he had thought of himself as a genius, because as a child he learned new things with ease and developed faster than other children. Then we see a memory from his old life. Hamel angrily shouting at Vermouth. Vermouth had told him that he was just trash and that he could become much stronger if he tried harder. Hamel shouted back that he was already training with everything he had. Hamel then admits to himself that he was not truly a genius because there were real geniuses around him. Vermouth, for example, excelled at both swordsmanship and magic, which is why he became known as the War and was acknowledged by everyone as a true hero to the very end. All these thoughts run through Eugene's mind as he rides in a carriage toward the ceremony. He remembers his old companions, including Sienna, who was invited to the kingdom of Eroth and eventually became the youngest master of a magic tower. He also remembers Malan, the companion with the giant axe, and notes that Malan eventually founded an entire kingdom of his own. Eugene grips the seat beside him in anger, thinking bitterly that all of his companions lived good lives until the very end, while the Demon King is still alive and apparently doing just fine. He remembers how in his will he asked them to avenge him and wipe out all the demons. They all promised they would destroy the Demon King, and Vermouth promised it too while holding Hamel's hand. Now Eugene curses Vermouth for breaking that promise. Since Eugene died in the Demon King's castle, he concludes that Vermouth must have made some kind of agreement with the Demon King after Hamel's death. Because of that agreement, the war ended and peace spread throughout the world for the next 300 years. Then the man riding with Eugene leans toward him and says that he looks terribly tense. He smiles at him in a very strange way and says that if Eugene feels that nervous already, it will be hard for him to live in the main residence. Eugene thanks him politely and calls him Mr. Gordon. The man adds that the road is still long, but also explains that there are transfer gates in many places, so traveling is not usually a problem. Eugene becomes annoyed and thinks to himself that if transfer gates exist, then there was no reason for him to be stuck in a carriage in the first place. Then he reminds himself that he simply does not have permission to use them. Eventually, they arrive at the estate. The moment Eugene enters, he notices how cold and unwelcoming the atmosphere is. There is no reception waiting for him. He thinks to himself that of course there would not be one. Then he notices the banners and focuses on them. He says they bear the emblem of Vermouth Lionheart, the companion who betrayed him. Only the direct descendants are allowed to wear the lion symbol proudly on their chests. Eugene asks asks why his relatives have not arrived yet, and he is told that he is the first to arrive. Then he is guided to the guest quarters. In the next scene, a maid named Nina introduces herself and tells Eugene that she will serve him during his stay. She gives him a bell and says that if he needs anything, he only has to ring it. Eugene thinks to himself that at least they assigned him a personal maid. He asks her age because she looks young. She answers that she is 16 and only recently completed her training. Eugene immediately becomes suspicious. He thinks they deliberately assigned him a new maid so that if she makes any mistake and he points it out, he will somehow end up being blamed for it. He concludes that they are clearly determined to make things difficult for him. He asks when the rest of the family will arrive, and she says it will still take at least 4 more days. Eugene then asks her to show him the training grounds. Then we shift to another scene where two people stand outside the residence and discuss Eugene. The boy asks what that relative's name was again, and the girl replies that his name is Eugene. We learn that they are his relatives. The boy says he heard Eugene is from the countryside in the western part of the empire, and mocks him by saying that he is probably more familiar with a hoe than with a training sword. He even insults Eugene's smell and says that even if Eugene is technically family, they still have to protect the family's dignity from people like him. The girl agrees and says they should bother him, but the boy says they are not going to bother him, only warn him. We then learn that the girl's name is Seal. She flatters the boy and tells him how impressive he is. But Eugene heard the entire conversation. Then Seal suddenly notices him, and Eugene immediately panics and shuts the curtain. Seal simply smiles to herself in a strange way. Later, Eugene is seen in the training yard with Nina watching him. He is wielding a long spear and training intensely. Eugene says to himself that he was never lazy about training in his past life, and after being reborn into this new body, he has only pushed himself even further. He constantly exceeds his body's limits, but he does not care because even small injuries heal quickly. Nina watches in amazement and wonders how he can move like that while heavy sandbags are attached to both his hands and his spear. Then two people approach her. They turn out to be the same two relatives from before. They ask what Eugene is doing. We learn the boy's name is Cyan. The maid gets nervous and asks why they are there. Cyan says he is the one asking questions and repeats that he wants to know what Eugene is doing. Eugene strikes the end of his spear against the ground and replies bluntly that he is obviously training with his spear. Then Cyan calls him a country redneck, and Seal joins in the mockery. Eugene tells them to apologize. He gives only a flat and insincere apology, which makes Cyan even angrier. Cyan says that apology clearly was not sincere and orders him to show proper respect. Eugene points out that they are the same age and from the same family, so there is no reason to act like this. Cyan immediately rejects that idea and says there is no way he would ever be friends with someone like Eugene. He says that just because they share a family name does not mean they are equal. Then Seal reminds Cyan about the carriage, and he immediately orders Eugene to clean the carriage he came in, saying Eugene probably stained the seats with his disgusting smell. Eugene ignores him completely. Instead, Eugene turns to Nina and asks whether she is not a maid. When she says yes, Eugene orders her to clean the carriage. Nina freezes, then nervously agrees. Cyan explodes in anger and asks why Eugene is ordering the maid to do the task he told Eugene to do. He says talking politely to Eugene is pointless because Eugene is deliberately ignoring him. Then Cyan spots a wooden sword nearby, grabs it without hesitation, and says that Eugene is openly defying him. Eugene tells him to calm down and suggests they get along, but Seal says she has no interest in being Eugene's friend. Cyan, feeling humiliated, declares that he has no choice but to challenge Eugene to a duel. Eugene is honestly confused by how fast things escalated. He tells Cyan that a duel is not a word to throw around casually and tells him to stop bothering him and leave. Cyan insists that Eugene is clearly afraid of him, and when Eugene starts getting annoyed, Cyan doubles down. He says Eugene is dodging the duel out of fear, and that apparently his parents never taught him what honor means. That is what finally pushes Eugene over the edge. He throws off the sandbags in his hands and says, "Fine, let us duel." Cyan is stunned. Eugene tells him to come at him and attack with everything he has. Then Eugene strips off his shirt and tosses it away right there in front of Cyan, Seal, and Nina. Cyan is completely shaken when he realizes those sandbags were not for show. He had assumed they were empty props meant to attract attention, but Eugene had really been training under all that weight. Eugene even removes the sandbag tied to his spear. Seal becomes excited at the thought of the fight while Cyan grows anxious. He thinks to himself that he cannot back down now because Seal would mock him for it, so he convinces himself that he has to fight in order to protect his pride. He challenges Eugene again. Eugene, now ready, calmly accepts. Seal is stunned when the duel begins, and Eugene immediately thrusts the spear with overwhelming force. Cyan cannot take the hit at all, and the impact sends him flying through the air. Eugene calmly declares victory after beating him with a single strike. Seal rushes to Cyan and asks if he is all right. Then she complains that the duel was completely dishonorable. Eugene asks what exactly was dishonorable about it. He explains that the duel starts the moment the challenger gives the word and that Cyan was the one who dropped his guard. Seal points at Eugene and accuses him of using mana. Eugene denies it and says he is not even allowed to train in mana, but Seal insists he is lying. She says there is no way anyone could train with that much weight and strike that fast without using mana. She points out that Eugene's attack was so quick that it forced Cyan to drop his guard before he could respond. Eugene laughs and tells her that at least her eyes are not just for decoration. She responds that she has heard that before. Eugene says the important part is not that Cyan was simply caught off guard. The real point is that the instant Eugene attacked, Cyan instinctively stepped back to reduce the damage, which means his reflexes are actually impressive. Eugene thinks to himself that Cyan does have potential for the future, but even so, that potential still would not be enough to make him worthy of being Vermouth's descendant. Cyan staggers back to his feet and fumes that Eugene dared to hit him, calling him a coward. Eugene replies dryly that he and his sister really do sound like twins since they say the same things. He then tells Cyan that if he truly considers himself noble, then he should accept his defeat with dignity. At that moment, an angry voice calls out from behind Eugene. Eugene turns and notices that the newcomer is not wearing the lion emblem on his chest or shoulder, so he immediately concludes that he must be a family knight. Eugene can tell from his bearing that he is highly skilled. Cyan recognizes him at once and says he lost. We then learn that the knight's name is Hazar. Hazar apologizes for introducing himself late and says that he is the person responsible for training young Master Cyan. Eugene introduces himself as Eugene Lionheart from the collateral line. Hazar is surprised and asks what happened there. Eugene explains that Cyan challenged him and insulted his father. Cyan quickly denies it. Eugene presses the point and says that Cyan insulted his family and called him a coward, then asks Hazar whether that is not enough to justify the duel. Hazar awkwardly admits that Eugene is right. He then takes Cyan away to have his injury treated. Seal, before leaving, tells Eugene that she will see him again. Hazar says something similar and the two of them leave together. Later, Eugene is shown eating alone in the dining room while Nina stands beside him.